is, let's see, send out notice. bkgoswami. Whoops, okay. Got that. And check to make sure we're online. And yes, we are live. Okay, let me get the guitar. Alrighty, so we will get started, and okay, I go back. So we'll chant Vaishnava Vigyapti. That's prayers to the Vaishnavas. Vaishnava Goswami, Evaro Karuna Koro, Vaishnava Goswami, Patita Papanatoma Vineke Onai. Atita papana toma vineke ona ali katekele apodore Mona Dayala Bravo Keva Kotapa Mona Dayala Bravo Keva Kotapa Angara Pora Shonile Hashtag Asyate Bhavan Dashaneva Vitra Kora Vedoma Ragan Dashaneva Vitra Kora Vedoma Harisaya Purande Kari Govinda Vishra Govinda Govinda Mora Vaishnava Puran Govinda Govinda Mora Vaishnava Puran Janme Korea Chajarame Dure Rati Janme Korea Chajarana Dure Naratama Kora Doya Alava Narabu Tame Kodoya Narabole Evaro Kuro Vaishnava Goswami Atita Vanadoma Vineke Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Chago, Mo, Hari, Mo, Hari, Mo, Jai Om Vishnupad. Paramahansa Parabhakacharya Paustutara Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Savaya Charana the Bhaktivedanta Goswami Mahashila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sadvaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturam Ki Jai Jagat Goswami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Srimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaura Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tiramani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarni. So, today, and let me read the translation of this Vaishnava poem by Narottama Das Thakur, O Vaishnava Goswami. Please be merciful to me now. There is no one except you who can purify the fallen souls. Where does anyone find such a merciful personality by whose mere audience all sins go far away? One becomes purified after bathing in the waters of the sacred Ganges many times. But just the sight of you purifies the fallen souls. This is your great power. The holy name delivers one who is offended, Lord Hari, but if one offends you, there is no means of deliverance. Your heart is always the resting place of Lord Govinda, and Lord Govinda says, the Vaishnavas are in my heart. I desire the dust of your holy feet in every birth I may take. Please consider Narottama yours and be kind upon him. So, first we'll do Om Gana Timiranda Sha Gananjana Shilakaya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master's divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So, yesterday we finished our reading of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It took over 400 sessions to actually complete the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if anyone's interested in any of those sessions, they're all available on my YouTube channel, Bir Krishna Goswami, and under the category of Chaitanya Charitamrita, broken up into 3 categories: the Adi Leela, Madhya Leela, and the Ancha Leela. So it's all available for any of you who want to see any of that series. So, I was thinking about what we should study now, and I was thinking very deeply about it, and I definitely want to stick with Srila Prabhupada's books for right now. I mean, not forever, obviously. And so I was thinking of an important small book that we can deal with right now. One of the basic books is the Nectar of Instruction, which is a very important book. Prabhupada wanted this book distributed everywhere, and because it gives us basic instructions for spiritual life, beginning with controlling the senses all the way up to the topmost aspect of spiritual life, which is residing at Radhakund. So, let us read the Nectar of Instruction. Hope that's all right with everybody. It's a short book, and we'll probably finish rather quickly, but it's very important so the people have basic information about Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada wanted it distributed on the street, and I'll try to keep it. I mean, it is a very interesting book. Anyway, so it teaches us how to control the senses and ultimately achieve the highest goal. It goes from A to Z. So hopefully everyone will appreciate that. And so we will start now with the Nectar of Instruction. So, of course, we don't chant Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya. Trying to figure out what we should chant. Maybe the Goswami Ashtaka. Nana Shastra Vichara Nankani said Dharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarano Tribhuvane Manyo Shavanikaro Gopi Bhava. Let me just actually we should chant that particular verse. Goswami Astaka. Shri Shri Goswami Astaka. Text 30. Page 30. Particularly one of the verses, Nana Shastra Vichara Naikani said Dharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarano Tribhuvane Manyo Shuranya Karo Radha Krishna Padara Vindabhajan Dana Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatano Raguyago Shijiva Go Palako. So I guess we chant this before we read the Nectar of Instruction. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Because the Nectar of Instruction is a work done by Srila Rupa Goswami, translated by Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Rupa Goswami is basically in one sense, like a Samstapaka Acharya, a founder Acharya of our particular branch of the disciplic succession. Therefore, we are known as Rupanugas. and his book originally is called Upadeshamrita, the nectar, which is basically the nectar of instruction. Upadesha means to give instruction, and Amrita means nectar. So, nectar of instruction. That's how Prabhupada translated. That's the literal translation. So let's share the screen and we will start. And we're going to start with the preface, which was written by Srila Prabhupada. So, Nectar of Instruction Ki Jai. Here we go. Preface. The Krishna conscious movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. That's what we called Rupanugas. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas or Bengali Vaishnavas are mostly followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of whom the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are direct disciples. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur has sung Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoivi Akuti Kavihama Bhuchavo Se Yugala Pirati. When I am eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis, then I shall be able to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to bestow upon human society the benediction of the science of Krishna. The most exalted of all the activities of Lord Krishna are his pastimes of conjugal love with the gopis. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani, the best of the gopis. Therefore, to understand the mission of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and follow in his footsteps, one must very seriously follow in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis, Sri Rupa, Sanatan, Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva, Gopal Bhatta, and Dasa Raghunath. So as I mentioned before, when we were talking about the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had his esoteric reasons for appearing, and he had his exoteric reasons. Exoteric means saving us and starting the Sankirtan movement. Esoteric, that means his own personal reasons, or to enjoy from the perspective of Srimati Radharani, to understand Radharani's love for him, and to actually see himself from Srimati Radharani's perspective. So this is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's internal reasons for appearing. Srila Rupa Goswami was the leader of all the Goswamis, and to guide our activities he gave us this Upadeshamrita, the nectar of instruction, the direct translation, to follow. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left behind him the 8 verses known as Shikshashtaka, Rupa Goswami gave us Upadeshamrita so that we may become pure Vaishnavas. In all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control his mind and senses. Unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life. Very important. Everyone within this material world is engrossed in the modes of passion and ignorance. One must promote himself to the platform of goodness, sattva gun, by following the instructions of Rupa Goswami. Then everything concerning how to make further progress will be revealed. So, of course, controlling the mind and senses is very difficult. As Arjuna says, it's like controlling the wind. Chanchalai mana Krishna pramati balabhadridam. So, how do you do that? Well, first of all, Prabhupada said you got to cultivate the mode of goodness. The mode of goodness in your activities, the mode of goodness in your association, and the mode of goodness in your food, all the different activities in your reading, what you talk about. And if you cultivate the mode of goodness, then it becomes easier. And then focus yourself on what you want to achieve in Krishna consciousness. That's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kuranandana, be one-pointed. And keep good association. Stay always in the association. Devotees like Prabhupada would say that we are like sticks, and if you put a lot of sticks together, you can't break them. If you put one stick by itself, you can break it. Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. A follower of the Krishna conscious movement should become a perfect Goswami. Vaishnavas are generally known as Goswamis. That means people who control the senses. In Vrindavan, this is the title by which the director of each temple is known. One who wants to become a perfect devotee of Krishna must become a Goswami. Go means the senses, and Swami means the master. Unless one controls his senses and mind, one cannot become a Goswami. To achieve the highest success in life by becoming a Goswami and then a pure devotee of the Lord, one must follow the instructions known as Upadeshamrita, which have been given by Srila Rupa Goswami. So in other words, Prabhupada is giving a step-by-step process here. First, you become a Goswami. Not that you have to take sannyas, but you become a Goswami by controlling the senses. That means doing what Krishna wants, rejecting what Krishna doesn't want. Those are the first two principles of Sharanagati given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Accept everything favorable, reject everything unfavorable. And then a pure devotee of the Lord, one must follow the instructions known as Upadeshamrita, which have been given by Srila Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami has given many other books, such as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that's a Nectar devotion. We did that book over a year ago. And we also did Bhagavad Gita. Vidhagya Madhava, which is the play regarding Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, very intimate play. And Lalita Madhava, a very intimate play regarding Krishna's pastimes out of Vrindavan when he leaves Vrindavan. But Upadeshamrita constitutes the first instructions for neophyte devotees. One should follow these instructions very strictly, then it will be easier to make one's life successful. Hare Krishna. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Vishvarupa Mahotsava, that means the appearance of Vishvarupa, who is the older brother of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is considered to be Nityananda or Balaram. Krishna Balaram Mandir, Raman Reti, Vrindavan, India. That's Prabhupada's preface. Beautiful preface. Prabhupada is amazing. Anyway, so let's start with text 1. And as I said before, this is a step-by-step process. And the first thing is going to be about controlling the senses. And the senses and the pushings of the senses are mentioned here. This is also a prerequisite, in one sense, for those who want to become gurus, instructing gurus, or initiating gurus, or guiding others, or even, as Lord Rishabhadev says, one who wants to become a mother or father or anybody who gives guidance to others. So Lord Rishabhadev says no one should become basically a mother or father, guru, or worshipable person unless they're capable of freeing those who they are guiding from the cycle of birth and death. So this is a very high standard. But actually, just to be a sober person, which is mentioned here, dhira, in this verse, one needs to control the senses. Even just to be a gentleman or a lady, one needs to control the senses, even in a material sense. If one is controlled by these different items that are mentioned in this verse, then one is no better than an animal. Because the animals, they are controlled by... Anyway, let's go. So, Vacho Vegam Manasakroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udaro Pashta Vegam, Etan Veganyo Vishaheta Dira, Sarvamapimam, Prativim Sashishat. I'm going to read the word-by-word translations here, which I didn't do in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but I think this is very few verses here, so we can do this. Vachaha, of speech. Vegam, urge or pushing. The urge. We have this urge. You gotta do it, and you just gotta pull yourself back. Vacha, Vegam. Manasa, of the mind. Krodha, of anger. Vegam, and again the urge or the pushing. Jiwa, of the tongue. And Bhaktivinoda, of course, says the tongue is the most difficult to control. Vegam, that's urge again. Udra, pochta, that means of the belly and that which is below it, the genitals. Vegam, urge. Etan, these. Vegan, urges. Sorry. Ya, whoever, Vishaheta, can tolerate. Dira, sober. Sarvam, all these. Api, certainly. Imam, this. Pratibhim, world. Sa, that personality. Shishyat, can make disciples. So you may think, before I read the translation, let me read the translation and then we'll say a few words. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So you may think, well, what about someone who's not Krishna conscious who can control these things? Well, I got news for you. Ultimately, long term, the only person who's going to be able to control these things is someone who's actually having a higher taste. In the Bhagavad Gita, you find this verse, Vishayavati Vartante Nirasha Dehana Rasa Varjam Rasha Pisha Param Drishra Divartate. That only by experiencing a higher taste can one be actually fixed in consciousness. So that's the only way to do it. Temporarily it may appear that one is controlling these different items, but ultimately, because the modes of nature, and if one is not Krishna conscious, one will be ultimately under the modes of nature. The modes of nature are struggling for supremacy, for control of someone. Okay, let's go on to the purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 1st chapter, text 9 to 10, Parikshit Maharaj placed a number of intelligent questions before Shukadeva Goswami. One of these questions was, why do people undergo atonement if they cannot control their senses? For instance, a thief may know perfectly well they may be arrested for stealing. He may actually see another thief arrested by the police, yet he continues to steal. Experience is gathered by hearing and seeing. One who is less intelligent gathers experience by seeing, and one who is more intelligent gathers experience by hearing. So this part of the Bhagavatam, actually in the 6th canto, comes right after the 5th canto. Parikshit Maharaj was interested in how one can be freed from the resultant sinful activities that would send one to Hell. And Shukadeva Goswami, testing his disciple, says by atonement. Atonement. And then Parikshit Maharaj says, no, he still has the desire to do those things. He's going to keep doing it, so there's not actually purification. There has to be more purification than that. Of course, ultimately, the answer was given, Tasmat Sankirtanam Vishnu Jaganmangalam Anglasam Mahatama Vikarivya Vijakantika Nishkratam. The best method of purification, atonement, or whatever, is the chanting of Krishna's names. So when you simply understand the punishment because you're addicted to doing certain things, you don't have purification of heart, you'll continue doing them. Prabhupada tells a very interesting story. Once upon a time there was a thief who was addicted to stealing, and he became a devotee, but he still had a little bit of that stealing propensity left. So he was staying in some dhamshala. It's like a bunch of people staying overnight in a holy place. And he got up in the middle of the night and he saw everybody had their belongings next to them. And so he went out, and instead of stealing the belongings, he just kept switching the belongings from one person to another. And they woke up in the morning, they said, what's that? He explained, well, I didn't want to steal, but had this propensity. When an intelligent person hears from the law books and shastras or scriptures that stealing is not good, and hears that a thief is punished when arrested, he refrains from theft. A less intelligent person may first have to be arrested and punished for stealing to learn to stop stealing. However, a rascal, a foolish man, may have the experience both of hearing and seeing, and may even be punished, but still he continues to steal. Even if such a person atones and is punished by the government, he will again commit theft as soon as he comes out of jail. If punishment in jail is considered atonement, what is the benefit of such atonement? In other words, That's called recidivism. That is, one goes to jail and then commits the same crime and goes to jail again, and eventually you get accustomed to being in jail. Some of these criminals live their whole lives in jail. So, what's the benefit of punishment for the punishment's sake? Of course, this is very much in line with something I was discussing in my empathic communication course, which was contrasting restorative justice and retributive justice. Retributive justice means you just punish someone. Restorative means you try to bring them to the right frame of consciousness, and that's Krishna consciousness. Thus Parikshit Maharaj inquired, Drishta Shutavyam Yat Papam Janam Apyatmano Hitam Karoti Bhuya Vivasha Prayaschittamato Katam Kvachin Nivartate Badrat Kvachit Chatati Tat Punaha Prayaschitam Mato Partam Manye Kunjata Shotshavat. Parikshit Maharaj compared atonement, that's from the 6th canto, 1st chapter, 10th, I believe it's the 10th verse. Went ahead with that. Parikshit Maharaj compared atonement to an elephant's bathing. The elephant may take a very nice bath in the river, but as soon as it comes onto the bank, it throws dirt all over its body. What then is the value of its bathing? Similarly, many spiritual practitioners chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and at the same time commit many forbidden things, thinking their chanting will counteract their offenses. Of the 10 types of offenses one can commit while chanting the holy name of the Lord, this offense is called Namno Balad Yashahi Papa Buddhi, committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This is Prabhupada's famous comment about Christians going to church and going to confession. Similarly, certain Christians go to church to confess their sins, thinking that confessing their sins before a priest and performing some penance will relieve them from the results of their weekly sins. As soon as Saturday is over and Sunday comes, they again begin their sinful activities. Of course, sometimes the church is on Sunday, so as soon as Sunday is over, Monday comes. I expect to be forgiven the next Saturday or next Sunday. This kind of, certain Christians celebrate on Saturday. They're called Seventh-day Adventists. This kind of prayaschitta, or atonement, is condemned by Parikshit Maharaj, the most intelligent king of his time. Shukadeva Goswami, equally intelligent as befitting the spiritual master of Maharaj Parikshit, answered the king and confirmed that his statement concerning atonement was correct. A sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity. Thus, real prayaschitta atonement is the awakening of our dormant Krishna consciousness. And so when that happens, talking about what we learned in the Nectar of Devotion, there's these different stages of sin. There's the kuta, which is inclination. There's the bija, that's a specific seed to commit a specific sinful activity. There's the activity itself. There's the parabdha karma. I'm sorry, after that there's the aparabdha karma. That aparabdha karma is the reaction you're going to get, but you haven't gotten it yet. Parabdha karma is the reaction that's mature, like the body that you have, the problems you have in life, the diseases you have, etc., like that. So that's called parabdha karma. But that whole cycle of parabdha of kuta, bija, and then the karma, the activity, then the aparabdha karma, and then the parabdha karma actually leads you to have more of the kuta and bija. So it's like a vicious cycle. And the only way to break that cycle is to fry, as Prabhupada said, the desire seed in the heart. And Prabhupada gave the example in that regard of seeds, or even chickpeas, garbanzo beans, that can be buried, as we know that they were buried in the tombs of the pharaohs, the pyramids, for many thousands of years. But then as soon as you add water, guess what? Then it sprouts. So that's the point. You have to fry the seed. Once you take the chickpea, of course, hopefully you soak it a little first. Once you take the chickpea and you actually fry it, then no longer can it sprout. it kills the seed. We're not interested in killing, but it kills the seed. And in this way, making this particular metaphor, the seed of desire is killed, and the seed of inclination, tendency, is actually killed by the pure chanting of the Lord's holy names. So real atonement involves coming to real knowledge, and for that there's the standard process. When one follows a regulated, hygienic process, he does not fall sick. A human being is meant to be trained according to certain principles to revive his original knowledge. Such a methodical life is described as tapasya. One can be gradually elevated to the standard of real knowledge or Krishna consciousness by practicing austerity and celibacy, brahmacharya, by controlling the mind, by controlling the senses, by giving up one's possessions in charity, by being avowedly truthful, by keeping clean, and by practicing yoga asanas. Now, of course, Prabhupada didn't usually advocate practicing yoga asanas, but connected to Krishna consciousness, they can help one be healthy so one can focus the mind. But I remember one time Prabhupada was walking with the devotees on the beach and someone was standing on his head, and Prabhupada said, "Oh, they've become very healthy," and the devotees asked, "Should we do it?" And Prabhupada said, "No." So anyway, but if one does yoga to preach Krishna consciousness, that's a different thing. So tapasya, the word tapasya means like burning. We talked about this in Bhagavatam class a few days ago, when Lord Brahma first appeared from the lotus flower coming out of the navel of the Lord, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. He didn't know what to do, and he dived down into the stem of the lotus flower, and he just heard these two words, tapa. So what does tapa mean for us? It means, again, accepting everything favorable, rejecting everything unfavorable. That's all. And, here, let's say it mentions celibacy, but that means that one can utilize the sexual organs for having Krishna conscious children. So it's a qualified celibacy, so nobody should get scared about that. Controlling the mind means Savaimana Krishna Padara. And they're fixing it on Krishna, or fixing it on Krishna service, or fixing it on the pure devotee, and controlling the senses, which are wild horses. Giving up one's possessions in charity. That doesn't mean you just live like a poverty-stricken person, but you engage all your senses, all your possessions in Krishna's service, and being truthful. And the only way you can be truthful is actually by telling the truth about Krishna. By keeping clean and practicing yoga asanas. However, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of pure devotee, he can easily surpass all the practices. We are very fortunate. We have Prabhupada's association for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process, simply by following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness, refraining from illicit sex, meeting, intoxication, and gambling, and by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. This easy process is being recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami. So if one serves Prabhupada by serving his mission, that's a very easy process. You don't have to learn all these other yoga asanas. I mean, if you want, you can. First, one must control his speaking power. So here Prabhupada is getting more specific. Every one of us has the power of speech. As soon as we get the opportunity, we begin to speak. If we do not speak about Krishna consciousness, we speak about all sorts of nonsense. A toad in the field speaks by croaking. And similarly, everyone who has a tongue wants to speak, even if all he has to say is nonsense. The croaking of the toad, this is a very important example to use when we're preaching. However, it simply invites the snake, "Please come here and eat me." Nevertheless, although it is inviting death, the toad goes on croaking. The talking of materialistic men and impersonalist Mayavad philosophers may be compared to the croaking of frogs. They're always speaking nonsense and thus inviting death to catch them. Controlling speech, however, does not mean self-imposed silence, the external process of mona. Like this mona vrata. someone takes a vow never to speak, as Mayavadi philosophers think. It means speaking about Krishna. Actually, I had a friend who's not a devotee. He would do like a whole month of not talking. He would go to this particular ashram or whatever it is, and for a whole month they wouldn't be able to talk. Now, what's the use of that? And then as soon as he got out, he talked nonsense. Silence may appear helpful for some time, but ultimately it proves a failure. By contrast, the controlled speech advocated by Srila Goswami is the positive process for Krishna Katha, engaging the speaking process and glorifying the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. The tongue can thus glorify the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. The preacher of Krishna Katha is always beyond the clutches of death. This is the significance of controlling the urge to speak. And of course, what was that? Atakshi Krishna Nahamadi, Nabavet Graham Indriya, Sevamukehis Jivados, Swayamevas Parachita. That one cannot perceive Krishna by these mundane senses because Krishna is transcendental and the senses are mundane in their mechanisms. But if you engage the tongue, Atakshi Krishna Namadi, Nabavet Graham Indriya, Sevan Mukehi Jivado, then you can actually purify the senses, you can actually perceive Krishna. So that was the tongue, the speaking. Okay, the urge to speak. The restlessness, of course, the tongue is also, we're going to talk about later about the urge to eat, and that's dealt with later in this particular purport. The restlessness or fickleness of the mind, manao vega, that means pushing of the mind, is controlled when one can fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila 22:31, verse 31, yeah, says, Krishna Surya Sama Maya Andakar, Yan Krishna Tan Nahi Mayadikar. It's a very interesting quote, which Prabhupada would often quote. Krishna's like the sun. So he's defining illusion as the absence of Krishna. Like Maya is darkness. So darkness is not a positive thing. Darkness is the absence of light. You can't say, turn on the darkness. It just doesn't make sense. You could say, turn off the light, and then you get darkness. So Krishna's like the sun, Maya is like darkness, or the absence of Krishna. And actually, yeah, in the Chaturshloka Ritevatam na pratyeta chatme tadvajadagmano mayam yata basha yata tamaha. That's from the Chaturshloki verse, that if you see something without connection to Krishna, then that is illusion. Krishna is like the sun and Maya is like the darkness. If the sun is present, there's no question of darkness. Similarly, if Krishna is present in the mind, there's no possibility of the minds being agitated by Maya's influence. The yogic process of negating all material thoughts will not help. To try to create a vacuum in the mind is artificial. The vacuum will not remain. However, if one always thinks of Krishna and how to serve Krishna best, one's mind will naturally be controlled. So in other words, you're thinking, you may say, how can I think of Krishna all day long? When I used to put a picture of his lotus feet right in front of my face. I remember one devotee, he wanted to fix his mind on Krishna, so he pasted pictures of Krishna all over his car, and even Krishna's, I believe it was Krishna's lotus feet were on the steering wheel, so he'd keep turning the steering wheel and seeing Krishna's lotus feet. No, we remember Krishna right now by concentrating on our service, what we've been asked to do by Krishna, by the spiritual master. Similarly, anger can be controlled. We cannot stop anger altogether. But if we simply become angry with those who blaspheme the Lord or the devotees of the Lord, we control our anger in Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became angry with the miscreant brothers Jagai and Madhe who blasphemed and struck Nityananda Prabhu. In his Sikshastika, Lord Chaitanya wrote, Srinadapi Sunichina Torodapi Sahishana. One should be humbler than the grass and more tolerant than the tree. One may ask why the Lord exhibited his anger. The point is that one should be ready to tolerate all insults to one's own self. But when Krishna or his pure devotee is blasphemed, a genuine devotee becomes angry and acts like fire against the offenders. Krodha, anger, cannot be stopped, but it can be applied rightly. It wasn't anger that Hanuman set fire to Lanka, but he is worshipped as the greatest devotee of Lord Ramchandra. This means that he utilized his anger in the right way. Arjuna serves as another example. He was not willing to fight, but Krishna incited his anger. You must fight. To fight without anger is not possible. Anger is controlled, however, when utilized in the service of the Lord. Krishna also incited Arjuna's anger by saying that if you don't fight, people are going to make fun of you. They're going to say you're a lagaband, you're very light. You're a coward. For one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. So, this, for a Kshatriya, that makes you angry. For a Brahman's not concerned with the reputation of what people say about him or her. A Brahmin would just say, if you say, people make fun of you, okay, that's their problem. It's not my problem. You see, like in the case of Lord Rishabhadev, when he left or renounced this world, he was wandering all around like a crazy man, and people were making fun, throwing things at him and everything like that. And he was completely unconcerned. That's called Jata Yoga. It's not recommended for us, this Jata Yoga, where you just act like a crazy person. For us, we should act like sane people and serve Krishna in insanity, not insanity, in a sane way. As for the urges of the tongue, we all experience that the tongue wants to eat palatable dishes. Generally, we should not allow the tongue to eat according to its own choice, but should control the tongue by supplying prasadam. The devotee's attitude is that he will eat only when Krishna gives him prasadam. That is the way to control the urge of the tongue. One should take prasadam at scheduled times and should not eat in restaurants or sweetmeat shops simply to satisfy the whims of the tongue in your belly. If we stick to the principle of taking only prasadam, the urges of the belly and tongue can be controlled. And actually, that's one of the trainings, the aspects of training that brahmachari gets when he's in the ashram. He's only supposed to eat when the guru or the person in charge of the ashram tells him to eat. Otherwise, he fasts. Only when he's asked to come eat. That's how. There's stories in the Mahabharata about that. How, I don't have time to tell the story, but there was one brahmachari who was a little bit overweight, and the guru wanted him to lose weight and send him to take care of the cows, but he found ways to continue eating by begging and drinking the milk from the cows. And the guru kept correcting him the whole time. No, begging goes to the guru. The milk is meant for the calves. Even the foam that comes out of the cows, that's meant for the cows, the calves too. So the guru finally got him to stop eating, and the guy couldn't control his senses after that, and he actually ate some leaves that were poisonous and became blind. And then the guru said to him that if you want to cure your blindness, and he fell in a well too. The guru said, if you want to cure your blindness, you will have to pray to the Ashwini Kumaras. They are the physicians of the heavenly planets. So the Ashwini Kumaras came and offered this particular gentleman a cake and said, this is medicine. By that time, the gentleman learned his lesson, and he said, I cannot eat without my guru's permission. And the Ashwini Kumaras blessed him, get your sight back. He controlled his tongue, his belly, and tongue, and he was allowed by the guru to get married. That's why it's very important to have training. Brahmachari Gurukule Vasandanta Gororhitam. One goes to the ashram of the spiritual master and gets trained up in controlling the senses so that later on when they get married, and there's a license for sense gratification, which you can read about in the next paragraph tomorrow, then one is able to control the senses and not have adanta gopira, uncontrolled senses. Anyway, actually we just got a little distance here, so let me write text 1, urges of belly and tongue, so I know where first verse. Okay, so then we can take some questions here. Hold on a second. Mute everybody. Hope it was interesting. I'm trying to keep it interesting, even though it's really basic Krishna conscious philosophy. So you're allowed to unmute yourselves if you want. So who would like to ask a question? Jagat. Okay, Jagat.
Can you unpack the metaphor of speech inviting death?
Speech inviting death? Well, the metaphor that Prabhupada gives about the frog, is that what you're talking about?
Yes. And how speaking about Krishna, one is free from death?
Well, speaking about Krishna, one becomes free from death because it purifies one's consciousness, and also it frees one from the Yamadutas. I mean, that's also in reference to the story of Ajamil. That Ajamil was actually crying out his son's name. His son happened to be Narayan, and that freed him from death. Literally, actually freed him from death. And had he been crying out something else, that would have. Because basically, chanting purifies the consciousness and frees one from karma. I mean, ultimately, the body does have to die. But the chanting actually frees one from karma, so one is not subject to Yamaraj. And Yamaraj can be equated with the frog. He's not a frog, I don't want to offend him. With the frog that I'm sorry,
the
not
snake.
the frog.
You mean the snake?
The snake, yeah, the snake. Sorry about that. With the snake that eats the frog. So if the frog was able to keep his mouth shut, the snake wouldn't be able to discover him. Of course, the frog is actually singing love songs. That's why they're riveting, because they're calling the female frog. Please come and join me. Please come and join me. So, anyway, so Yamaraj can never touch those who are chanting the Lord's holy names. And that was brought out in the conversation with Yamaraj speaking to the Yamadutas in the center of Srimad Bhagavatam. All right?
Yes.
Yep. All right, thank you, Jagat. So, who else has a question?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Haribol, Abhay Chaitanya, good to hear from you.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Danvar Pranam. Sorry, I'm in the car, Gurudev. Hare Krishna.
That's all right.
Gurudev, be a very beautiful class. I was just wanted to touch on the point you made about atonement, about restorative and retributive, and how restorative, can obviously help, one from preventing them from going back to committing more sin and so forth. But how does that work when in the Vedic injunctions, we also see that if somebody is, has committed a sin like a murder or something, and the king's job is to punish through maybe a death sentence, because that seems to curb their karmic reactions in the future. So how does restorative work in that aspect, Gurudev? Thank you.
That is actually a very good question. Well, it actually restores. It's actually the best thing. First of all, it's the best thing for society because you don't have a murderer that you have to take care of for the rest of his life. And so you don't have a murderer that you have to take care of for the rest of his life. And the killing, you're not actually killing the soul. The killing actually gives him that experience of, even though it appears to be retributive, it gives him that experience that he understands what killing is like. Sometimes you have to give someone the experience of what the violence is like from the other person's perspective. So part of restorative justice is called perspective taking. I don't know if you understand what perspective taking is. Let's say if I yell at you and you feel very pained from doing that. And so the restoration would be that, not necessarily that you yell at me, but you would, we might switch positions, and then I would experience, some sort of, I guess maybe even yelling from your part. I would experience what it's like, or I would tell you what it's like from your perspective, and that's restorative justice. It's like the killing of a criminal is like the a switching role playing, basically role playing. So the criminal gets killed, and also it eliminates his karma at that particular point. There's also the karma. However, if one does take to Krishna consciousness, that would not be necessary to kill the criminal. If one would take up the path of purification, just like in the case of Jagai and Madai, the actual punishment that Jagai and Madai should have been, or Madai should have been subjected to, would be being killed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sudarshan Chakra. But because he took up the process and took up the restoration, therefore he wasn't punished. In fact, he was rewarded with pure Krishna consciousness. So, that's actually a very good question. A very, very, very good question. So there would be some provision in Vedic justice if someone's consciousness changed. If someone's consciousness changed, there would be some provision. But sometimes, in many cases, the only way to deal with such a situation to protect society is capital punishment. Very, very good question. So,
Thank you,
very
Gurudev.
good.
Haribol.
Haribo. So, who else has a question? Please raise your hand. Raise your hand. Nobody else has a question. Wow. Okay, so this is a very important book. And our restorative justice, just for example, talking about restorative versus retributive, because many of us committed unlimited volumes of sinful activities, V-karmic activities, before we came to Krishna consciousness, we would have to be punished according to the rules of karma, according to the injunctions that Yamaraj follows. But because we took up Krishna consciousness, that's restorative, and we don't have to be punished. That's a relief. So, but sometimes as a king, in order to protect society, has to engage in something that may appear to be retributive justice. But it's not that he's doing it to get even. Even his institution of capital punishment is not to punish the person for punishment's sake and make them suffer. It's to actually help the person. So that's a type of Vedic restorative justice, although it may appear to be retributive, and it's not given with the idea of vengefulness. Okay. Vedavadane, you have a question. You can unmute yourself for a second.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
I,
Gurudev, my question is, as you mentioned, the desire seed which leaves the consciousness with Krishna consciousness, but would there be like situations where they can come back again? Once they leave the soul, do they come back again?
it comes back. Well, if the consciousness is not completely purified, then one comes back, because one travels with one subtle body from one gross body to another, and whatever subtle desires are there, we're talking about inclination and desires are there, they're taken from one gross body to another body.
Okay. Thank you,
So
Gurudev.
here's the question. Depending on the offense, we decide restorative versus retributive. No, it's never retributive. Nalini Khan's asking me this question. It's not to get even. Actually, Dhruva Maharaj was stopped from killing the yakshas, the innocent yakshas. He was told it wasn't appropriate to kill all the yakshas. So it's not retributive means getting even. To get even. You feel happy to make someone suffer. Retribution, vengefulness, like that. Get even with someone. It's always restorative for the person and restorative for society. And Dhruva Maharaj was actually stopped from doing that. He was killing yakshas that he shouldn't have killed. Because his brother was killed by a yaksha, then he started killing all these other yakshas. So, society has to be considered too. So it's really a judgment call. What's best for society, and also what's best for the person who has committed the crime. So it has to be, both things have to be accomplished. So it's in the hands of the king. I'm not a king, and I'm not going to make those sorts of judgments. Okay. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and we'll continue with the first verse of the Upadeshamrita tomorrow, same time, same station. Very interesting. Nice questions. Really nice questions tonight. Thank you very much. All glories to His divine grace.